Africa is the home to many white elephants. And I'm not talking about the animal. I'm talking about white elephant projects. The term white elephant projects, if you're not familiar, dates a few hundred years ago to Southeast Asia, where royalty would gift albino elephants to their visitors. And on the face of it, this gift appeared to be a blessing because it had sacred symbolism. But in reality, it turned out to feel more like a curse because it saddled upon its recipients immense costs and had no practical benefit. White elephant projects are initiatives intended to improve the quality of lives of marginalized people, but in reality, end up being way more costly and make no significant changes for them. Let's take the Lake Turkana fishing plant project in Kenya. The Norwegian government spent $22 million to establish this fishing plant, but failed to take into consideration that the Turkanas are nomads with no history of eating fish or fishing, and that fishing was actually taboo in their culture. So the fishing plant was closed within 1 week of its opening because of the immense cost of operating freezers and the exorbitant cost of having to move exorbitant amount of water across the desert. Well, that Africa is littered with white elephants is actually a stereotype. This is a global, organizational, and even a digital world problem. There's actually been a white elephant moving around the city of Detroit in the United States for a few decades now. Costing $220 million to establish, this white elephant train system known as the Detroit Mover System was intended to create more transportation access and bring economic relief to a struggling city. Well, this riding train, is described by most people as a cross between a noisy amusement ride and a very uncomfortable taxi. The mover system was intended to move 15 million passengers each year, and at best has only ever moved 2.5% of its capacity, because the design of the train system was more concerned with political moves than people's needs. The list is a long one. And in my work with the United Nations, international NGOs, and well-intended corporations, I am one of those who are called into white elephant situations to diagnose what went wrong. Less than 10 years ago, I was part of a team assessing a significant project intended to strengthen gender equality in Somalia. And that project would do so through women inclusions initiatives. 2 billion euros of investment, and after millions were poured in, no one had paused to ask how the women for whom the money was intended for would have access to it, and whether within their cultural context they even had access to bank accounts. You can guess. In many white elephant situations, very basic questions are replaced by very questionable assumptions. From poverty to climate change to public health crises, we are facing deeply rooted, multifaceted challenges that are impacting marginalized folks all across the world. And all too often, well-intended organizations come in, they see a problem and they want to fix it. They pour a fair amount of good intentions and goodwill, but fail to take into consideration the lived experiences and the perspectives of those impacted by the situation. This results in initiatives that are at best ineffective and at worst harmful white elephants. We need to stop top-down, single, siloed solutions and embrace a context-sensitive, collaborative approach that takes into consideration diverse voices and perspectives and respects the power of community wisdom. By fostering genuine relationships that allow us to collaborate authentically with the most impacted communities, by not just speaking about issues, but deeply listening to those impacted by them, we have the capacity to create adaptable, multifaceted solutions that attend to the needs of those most impacted and can be sustainable. Far too often, organizations fall into the trap of creating a single solution in an effort to stop a very complex challenge. But before thinking that it only takes inviting diverse voices into the room, let's not fall into another type of single solution mindset. Because it's very tempting to think that by just inviting diverse voices and bodies, then we can have meaningful engagement. The reality is, invitation and representation does not automatically result in inclusion. So whether you are in a village working on an aid project or in the boardroom of an organization that has decided to be more inclusive, we can't simply go from folks who have been historically excluded, who have no sense of the social capital or the networks of what it takes to navigate those spaces, who have no sense of what are Robert's rules and what motions need to be seconded or thirded, and who do not know when exactly to nod, smile, and agree, or when to push back respectfully without being pushed out of the room to come in and navigate those spaces successfully. If we subscribe to a single solution approach, we risk setting everyone up for failure. And to be crystal clear, this does not mean that they are less competent. This is about inviting knowledge and valuing the wisdom of the collective. Because far too often, there are many critiques of diversity and inclusion programs as lowering the standards. The reality is that these folks just do not have the specific tools of that particular space. And by not subscribing to a single solution is also recognizing that they do not live single issue lives. None of us live single issue lives. So, if we want to create holistic, adaptable, sustainable solutions, then it cannot be business as usual. We have to create solutions that are conscious of systemic realities and are grounded in the lived experiences of those most impacted by them. And that means creating solutions that are adaptable to the approaches, the systems, and the structures that are most meaningful to those who will be impacted. What I know for sure, having worn many hats as lawyer, mediator, researcher, educator, and in my heart as a two-time immigrant, I know that we can achieve this through deep listening and co-creation. Deep listening comes alive when we pause and make space to establish genuine relationships with the people that we are trying to help. Before proposing solutions, we must do this first. Next, we have to build radically flexible frameworks and meaningful metrics. This means thinking about shifting from rigid frameworks with predetermined plans and defining solutions in connection with the community. This also means that the outcomes of any of these initiatives must be outcomes that are most meaningful to those who will be impacted by them. This means rethinking the very idea of solution itself. This radical flexibility must extend to funding. And to be specific, this means reducing the bureaucratic hurdles, and this also means allowing projects to evolve based on emerging needs because there is a trust-based relationship at the foundation. And yes, this also means embracing discomfort and learning from failure. Not everything that we do will work. And good intentions on their own are not good enough. And yet, no one wants to hear that their heroic, highly publicized initiative to help marginalized communities have failed, even partially. But the reality is, strategies will fall short. And we have to be more committed to getting it right, not just being right. Finally, we must break down silos. This looks like influential decision makers, impacted people, and implementers sitting across the room from each other and deeply listening. This also looks like ensuring that silos of initiatives that are addressing similar issues are becoming connected with each other. By doing so, we can arrive at adaptable solutions that can truly impact the communities that we seek to serve, that are conscious of systemic realities and can be sustainable. I promise I am not sailing you on a dreamboat to some unrealistic idealism. So back to that story of the Somali women who were left out of the funding project. A few years later, I was invited to mediate a dialogue between the international funders, the UN partners, and the local women's group. And understandably, the women were frustrated and angry and wanted to confront the funders about the squandered resources and the missed opportunity. To interrupt the downward spiral of the types of conversation that people have come to expect in these situations, we leaned into a unique approach to dialogue. We paused to share stories and demonstrate respect for each other's perspective so that we could build trust. Then suddenly, something incredible happened. Adversaries became allies. The transactional nature of the conversation became transformative, and the combative approach became more collaborative. The room was buzzing with optimism and hope. The funders and the women's groups had forged a new aligned partnership around shared goals, mutual respect, and some key actions that they could lead with. I've had the privilege of seeing sparkles of hope like this in community spaces in the Caribbean, in boardrooms in North America, and in convening spaces in the Middle East on a wide range of issues. So I know we can. The challenges that we face are complex, but so are we. We can change and change again. We can create the types of solutions that can attend to the realities of these complex challenges and create transformative, lasting change. Let us deeply listen so that we can co-create equitable engagements. Let us pause to embrace failure and uncomfortable truths so that we can adapt our approaches. Let us build meaningful relationships and partnerships, one conversation at a time, one meaningful partnership at a time, one repaired relationship at a time. Let's build a world where no one is left behind. Thank you.